We're going to cut this panel a little bit short because I think we do want to get to the to Oscar speaking at PwC.
It's not because you want to get the happy hour?
Oh yeah, that too. Anyway, so I'm going to let them. Not just beer. It's inspired by and paid for by DataArt. So we scaled it up a little bit. So anyway, so without any further ado, I will leave this to you.
Are you a chairless? Take that chair, I'll stand.
I can stand.
No, you're not supposed to stand. You're a panelist. I'm just a cost and overhead. So, all right. So this is all about apps, killer apps. So we're going to go around the horn and let you guys introduce yourself. Apps are very fond and special to me. So.
Good evening. I'm Ramu, Kannan, the CIO of CityMD.
Hello, my name is YiDing Yu. I'm a practicing physician, and I am the CEO and founder of Twiage. We do ambulance-to-hospital communication to help accelerate life-saving care.
I'm the same person I was a moment ago.
I'm Peter Frishauf. I'm a digital health consultant, investor.
Oh, and founder of Medscape. Come on, don't leave that out. That's like big time.
Guilty as charged.
Okay.
My name is Mette Dyhrberg, and I'm the founder of mymee. We help reverse disease symptoms for people with lupus.
Okay, who in this audience has a health app? That's a wearable. Okay, who checks it every day? Who is addicted to like counting their steps and kind of doing silly things? All right, so who has a health app that's not about food or tracking your steps? All right, even better. I mean, you raise your hand for everything. Hello, you have a lot of free time. I like it. All right.
It's called Microsoft Word.
It's called Microsoft Word. All right, I just want to go around the horn one more time. What is your favorite app? It could be a wearable too, so let's not leave it to just
It's
an app.
the Delta app. Sorry, I fly a lot.
The Delta app. Okay. How about, what's your favorite health-related app? And that's kind of a health-related app because you want to know if you're on time, right?
Yeah, so it's the Apple standard app that's sitting. I've tried various apps. I have the Garmin one that I use quite a bit when I run. Otherwise, it's the Apple app that's consolidating everything.
Awesome.
I think I really like MyFitness app, I think, that does calorie counting. I like the fact that it scans my barcode, so I don't have to enter anything. It just kind of calculates things from photos.
All right, so this is bad. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll tell you what it does.
And you check it every day, and you wear it, and that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. But I just, basically, it trains your eyes so you don't need reading glasses anymore. And I don't know if it works yet. I'll let you know in a while.
Excuse me, what does it do?
It's a magnifying glass.
Yeah, it goes through different exercises with your eyes so that you actually, can train your eyes to not need reading glasses. That's the idea.
Wow, unbelievable. Okay, I would have to also give it to the Apple Health app only because of the integration with the other apps. But I should give a shout out to my Microsoft Word has my entire health history in Dropbox, shareable with anybody who needs it. And, in 2 pages, any clinician can find out anything they need to know about me.
Cool.
Works pretty well.
The only app I use every day aside from my own is Clue, which is developed by a kick-ass Danish woman in Berlin.
But what does it do?
So basically, you can either use it for, as a contraceptive, or the opposite. So it's, your cycles and all the female stuff.
I heard you say contraceptive, and I was kind of like, wow, okay.
That's actually that's actually if you use it right.
It's a different show that we talk about.
No, but it's so in Europe, they just now actually approved these apps. So instead of having to take the pill every day, you measure the temperature, and it's as accurate as taking a pill.
Good. All right. So, and my favorite is I love my Apple iWatch and the wine app called Drink, but that's a whole nother thing. But wine's healthy, so it kind of goes in there. All right. So here's a question I got for the panel. Do you think downloading an app, using a device actually is making people healthy? Can it? Do you think it's making a difference? Or do you think it's more of just it's a game?
I'll comment.
Yeah.
So although I'm not wearing it now, I actually have a Fitbit, and I have the Gear watch also. But my entire family has some version of a Fitbit, and we actually challenge each other, sort of. So there's a part where you can share and see how many steps you get. And my daughter loves the days when she actually outperforms me. So, you know, there's no doubt that she's more active, especially when, you know, she knows I'm going into the city or doing this. Oh, Daddy's going to have a lot of steps. So it's definitely keeping my children more active, I would say.
Okay, anyone else?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I see it making a change every day. So we work with patients who are extremely sick, and by identifying what their triggers are and what they need to do to improve their health, you know, they reverse symptoms.
But does it help if that data, that information is going to their clinician or going into an EMR or going somewhere? Or is it more just about self-awareness?
I think it's a crucial part that the practitioners is involved in the process. Yeah.
Okay.
So the questions are, I mean, can it make a difference? Absolutely. Does it make a difference on a real, scalable, population-wide basis? You know, the jury is very much out on that because compliance with behavior change driven by many of these apps is abysmal. Very, very few people stick with it. But there are, you know, I must say I was very skeptical of the Apple Watch initially. It seemed like a solution in search of a problem. But having gotten one just about a month and a half ago when I was on a trip overseas, and one of the reasons why I wanted it was you lose things, and you don't lose something which is strapped to your wrist. That simple insight. So I use a Tile app which keeps track of stuff that I might lose, a wallet, my bag, whatever, and I can see on my watch where I may have left something. But in addition to that, the activity app is actually the fact that it nudges you when you've been sitting too long. I got several nudges, by the way, sitting in the audience here. Stand up and move. That actually is very helpful because it does build an awareness that I didn't have before. So I think it can be helpful, but the data on how many people are actually using and changing their behavior, very, very weak at this point.
I think it's fleeting. I mean, I love it because it's integrated into my Equinox app, but I kind of think that apps in general, people use it for a certain period of time and then they stop. But if it changes your behavior, like especially like the food-related apps, after you know that a shot of tequila has 120 calories and you know that a Caesar salad has something, then you kind of don't need it as much.
So exactly. I'm on Medicare, but as soon as you're over 40, one of the bad news about aging older is you need less food. So we have to move more. So I'm a big believer in active health. I rode my bicycle over here. So I exercise so that I can eat. You know, that really does motivate me in my own way.
You knew I liked you.
So, and logging, if you do log everything, it really does help a lot. And if you have apps that do it automatically, Moves, which Facebook now owns, you don't have to do anything. It knows if you're bicycling or walking or whatever.
All right, I think at the end.
Oh, you had something to say?
Well, I feel as a practicing primary care doctor, I have like strong feelings about this because I do think that for many people who are healthy and who already are motivated, fitness apps takes you that extra step. You know, I mean, even take it out like not even thinking about health or just thinking about sports apps like Nike Run. I mean, if you like running, the Nike app makes you like run and tracks all this cool stuff. And it probably makes you even more effective because you can track your pace. It can make you more effective on, maintaining your rhythm for a marathon. I think that's fantastic. But those people are already runners. And so we see a lot of this where it's kind of changes at the margin and it's not been held in long-term changes. In the healthcare system, the highest cost users are people who are not those adopters. And so in clinic, the patients who I'm really concerned about are the patients who are least likely to take it on. Anybody who comes in and asks me about one, I absolutely say, yeah, go for it, do it, stick with it. It's gonna be great. You know, it's great for your family, get up and moving, absolutely. But my challenge is for the people who struggle with thinking that quitting smoking is the right thing, who say, I've just tried to lose weight, but I can't, and I'm 300 pounds. Those are the toughest challenges.
Awesome.
That's why you're doing drugs, right?
So the one that I've seen working in trials is based on clinical trials.
Yep.
It's for diabetes prevention program. It's by a company called Moderator. So we tried it out extensively at Humana with people living with prediabetes as a condition. It worked extremely well. So it's aimed at something. It's proven by the CDC. Those things work.
Yeah, so I'm also a big believer that beware of apps. I started a company called Haptique, and we're all about prescribing apps, right? We were the first company in the space doing that, but there's more bad apps than good apps, and where are the apps coming from? Which leads me to my next question. So when I started in digital health, there was no such thing as a doctor prescribing an app. There was no such thing as a doctor even suggesting an app, or in general. Today, it just seems like everyone's sort of open for engaging with digital in a medical practice and in insurance. Do you see the day comes where when you go to your doctor, besides him prescribing you Lipitor, he's going to prescribe you a cholesterol adherence app? And I just want to see what the panel has any thoughts.
Well, Omada is a great example. Omada is already used by health systems and insurers, which is kind of prescribed. You sign up, you agree, and you stay. You're asked to stick with the program. So just like Weight Watchers, it's another thing, but it's for a health thing. So I think that's already happening, and I think for a health system that's invested in making that happen, that can definitely be enrolled in a program just like any other clinical trial. But as you said, there's a lot of noise in there.
Yeah, we're actually seeing pharmaceutical companies making companion apps for their drugs, especially when it's a drug that has a unique dosing schedule or something to that effect. So I have no doubt that we're going to see that.
Well, and if it reminds you to take your medication, right, isn't it really good for everyone? It's good for the insurance company because you're not going to get sick, or it's good for the hospital because you're not going to get readmitted. It's good for the physician because your patient is going to stay healthier.
So your question was, can you see a day when a medical practice is recommending apps?
As a norm.
As a norm. I would say in our dreams. But, the reality, I know way more about healthcare apps than any clinical practice. In fact, one of the reasons why they like seeing me as a patient is I teach them, did you know this and that was available? But clinicians are woefully undereducated or not educated in just basic communication skills. You mentioned before, nothing's changed in terms of communicating with you for the patient with multiple myeloma. And that's absolutely true, but there's no training in communications apps, this kind of technology on a very, very low level, so that you have hospitals, even innovative hospitals and medical systems that have invested in technology to share information, and the clinicians on their staffs are clueless that they even exist, don't know that they exist. Many hospitals have systems for sharing digital images. You ask most clinicians in those medical centers, did you know that you can share, how do I share my MRI with a practitioner who may be out of the country? They have no idea in 99% of my interactions with them. So I think that there are basic communication problems with clinicians and between clinicians and patients that are really fundamental. It's not the technology, it's the culture and it's the education in medicine which has to be disrupted in order for these changes to be pervasive.
I agree with Peter, but I also think that it comes down to, so at least in our case, what we saw the most was the kickback from the practitioners saying, we don't know what to do with all the data. They were extremely afraid of all of this data just all of a sudden overflowing them. And I think as the clinical trials really reach the apps and you get the clinical validation, I think you're going to see a very large mind shift. But you have to prove to them that it's not going to make their days harder, but it's actually going to be something that helps them as well as their patients.
Right. So as a clinician...
And then there's the who pays question.
Well,
don't forget that.
That's a big question, right? But as a clinician, do you see it coming more and more that when you're seeing patients that you want to give them more than just medicine?
I think the answer is yes. I would push back on what Peter said, though, about I think certainly there's education, but the reason why we don't use tools that are available to us is that those tools are not user-friendly and they're not intuitive. And so, I don't, when I Google something, I don't have to fish for information. Google has figured out how to put the most relevant information right in front of me. And medical care and the technology in medical care has not done that at all. If I type in Orlando, Florida, it'll say, here's your travel. And oh, by the way, the weather and the golfing temperature, the wind speeds, everything that they can anticipate. But instead, for medicine, we say, well, you have to find that link in the sublink over here. Of course, we're not going to remember that, right? So nothing is designed like that. So I would say that ultimately, I hope the EMR ecosystem becomes something where, and I hope it's like a marketplace. You sell to me the most popular, the best solutions, and make it dynamic. I open up Peter's record, and it's about whatever his medical conditions are, and it should show me the most relevant labs, conditions, tests, and other information, solutions that are relevant for him. Right now, it's all pull. I have to pull it from my brain or from any other sources I'm looking for, and that's not going to be a sustainable model for a while.
That's the killer.
That's where my Word file comes in.
Right. All right. So anyone in the audience, since we're running out of time, any questions you want to ask the panel about apps or anything, raise your hand. And there we go. You know what? I'm going to run out to you. So since Alex is busy, here we go.
Just a quick question about employers providing their employees with apps that combine health plan information along with other personalized, tools and contents to help them. Is that something that you see happening more, that employers will create like a killer app that they're, or an app that will be used largely and drive adoption?
Great question.
I see it more with insurance companies. Basically insurance companies offering some kind of plan where if they'll give you a Fitbit for a lower cost, or you take part of some challenge, and for an employer, but it's not the employer per se that's actually doing it.
And we have another question right here.
So the commonest app on a mobile used is Safari or maybe the Chrome, and the question is, do we really need native apps, or a responsive app is as good or the better?
When it comes to actually leveraging the sensors on a device, it's just gonna be better when it's native. And to be honest, I don't even think when it comes to most apps, we've really even scratched the surface of what we can do with them. There's so many different sensors on the apps. It can measure ambient light. It can measure, proximity. There's a number of different things that you just don't see being used. There are, you can set up a phone where it could potentially predict whether or not somebody's going to have a Parkinson's outbreak because of the way the phone, is shaking, or they're moving, or their gait. So there's so many different things we can do, and you need, for that kind of development, it needs to be a native app.
So one of the reasons we selected to go with responsive web was the inability to open one app from another app, whereas in a responsive web, I can do that. I can go to any website, and all the information is not in one place. They're in multiple apps or multiple websites. So how do you consolidate all of them? That's an impossible task. So then you should be able to connect them. And that's where the apps currently don't allow you to do that. Apple is very strict about it. They don't allow you to do it. Android is a little bit lenient, but then there are restrictions.
Be wary of any app that says it does magical things, like tell you if you have a melanoma, or tell you that, you have Parkinson's or whatever. So just be very wary. And then the biggest question I got from it is, how do you trust it all? I mean, there's, when I got into the business, there was 15,000 health-related apps. I think last count, there was over 75,000, going to 150,000 health-related apps. How do you know what to trust? And who's going to tell us what we can trust?
So Apple has just started. They're going to be validating a lot more, but I think it's going to be like a pharmacy for apps. I think there'll be clinical validation. I think it will, like Dan was saying, the world is changing, and it's happening in front of our eyes. So what we're thinking up right now is just like the tip of the iceberg.
Be like Haptik.
It'd be like, if it didn't get sold and then Social Wealth did nothing with it.
I think it's going to be like vitamins.
Vitamins?
Which is a free market. It's not regulated, and you can buy Nature Made or whatever random, and it'll be like, it helps you for sleep.
Awesome. All right, we have time for one more question, and then I have one question for the panel, and you can talk while I want.
Yeah, one thing I just want to mention is, when we think of wearables, we have to also think about things like injectable devices, things like the bionic pancreas that Medtronic put out. So when we talk about wearables, it definitely breaks over into the medical device area too. So I think we're going to see that merge.
Well, just transitioning from something to where it provides you an information, which is what the industry does in order to avoid FDA reviews. Otherwise, to make it really trustable and validated and all of that, you'd have to have randomized controlled studies, and that would then make it prohibitive to have an app, because then you can't just charge $1 or $2 for it. Then you'll have to charge, like for drugs, hundreds of dollars for an app, because it would cost that much to validate it.
I agree.
Great. I know everyone wants to hear Oscar speak, not actually Oscar, someone talk about Oscar, which is an awesome company. But before we do, I just want to go around the horn one time. Crystal ball, come back in a couple years. What's like the killer app, if you can design it and the technology can actually do what you want it to do, what would it be?
From a healthcare standpoint, if it gives me all the information that I need, but more importantly, it's personalized. It's about me. And is it going to happen in a couple of years? I don't think so, but that's what I would want.
I think that kind of the FDA level, the algorithms are going to get, machine learning is going to become incredibly sophisticated, and we're not going to have just, I'm tracking your steps. It's going to be much more sophisticated about predicting what's going on, and I think that with more and more data, we'll get there eventually.
I agree with machine learning, and I'll throw in natural language processing, things like Alexa. I think in 5 years, I'm going to be walking home, and my wearable is going to tell Alexa that I had a hard day. It's going to dim the lights and put on nice music, and then tell me that I have to go see the doctor because, I have high blood pressure or my heart rate jumped a beat or something.
In your dreams. It could all work if there were real data interoperability and then baked into an app that could differentiate meaningful from nonsense data. But right now, there is no real interoperability, and it's inexcusable. It should have been part of the first iteration of meaningful use. We still don't have it. So we're getting close with FHIR and all these other things, but anyone in healthcare, patient or clinician, knows that it's more myth than fact.
We'll develop it if nobody else does.
Thank you.
I think in the end of the day, as I think everybody here is learning to, is the killer app will be the one that lets you know what you need to know at that very moment and how to actually intervene. So.
Awesome, and thank you to the panel. And back to you, Alex.